No, Dennis Stevenson, an expert on the fluoride issue in Queensland and Australia generally. So yeah, how are you today?
Well, I'm perfect. What a great day it's been. This information coming across. And I think it really highlights the fact that things are changing and changing rapidly. And one of the changes we need, of course, is to stop them adding rat poison to our drinking water.
That's the way to put it bluntly and very plainly.
Well, that's what it is. I mean, people say, aren't you being a little bit harsh? I said, well, it's not my statement. The World Health Organization's International Agency for Cancer Research lists sodium silicofluoride, which is what they're whacking in our water, as an insecticide, fungicide, bacteriacide, and rodenticide. And of course, a rodenticide is a rat poison.
What do you call a human? Is it a homicide when it's the people?
Well, it's a very good point, isn't it? It would be exactly the same thing. In America, it kills about 50,000 people each year in fluoridate poisoned communities as against fluoride free.
So, what are the symptoms of fluoride poisoning?
One of the very, very common things is the cellular breakdown of the bone structure.
Okay.
And we see that very commonly in fluoridated communities. You go to Melbourne or Sydney, and what you've got is people all over the place with mottled teeth. Now, this is white, yellow, brown, rarely black blotches on your teeth. And it is so common. The moment you get to a fluoridated area, you start to see it. Possibly 25%, up to 50% have got flecks on their teeth.
I think I had it when I was a kid, but I'm not sure if, I don't have it now because, does it go away or?
No, it doesn't. But if it was your first set of teeth, up to 6 years old, you get rid of them. Then we get our permanent set from 6 years to 12 years. Once you've got those permanent teeth, fluorosis doesn't go away because it's actually changed the cellular structure of the tooth. It makes the outside of the tooth brittle.
Yep.
What happens is you go to the dentist, they start to drill in, and instead of being able to drill it, they'll often break, crumble.
I keep chipping this tooth. It's a problem for me. But in Queensland, Anna Bligh decided to dump a whole lot. What was the accident? What was the furor? The waters in Queensland were over-fluoridated. Can you explain that whole catastrophe and what happened exactly?
Surely. There's a slightly earlier thing as to when the Liberal backbencher moved a fluoridation bill, the Labor Party voted against it.
Yep.
Right? And a lot of people said, we won. I said, listen, give it time. It's not as if they're against fluoride. They'll put it in, and they duly put it in later on. Against the people's will, they said they're going to fluoridate the entire Queensland, and much of it is the Gold Coast, Brisbane, and so on. So what happened? Not long after they started to put the fluoride in our water, it was shown, and they tried to cover this up as best they could, but it came out. And it was shown that large percentages of fluoride had been accidentally added to the water supply.
How does that happen accidentally?
Well, basically, it's just because, I wouldn't be surprised if it was an accident, but they're just incompetent. You've got to be very careful when you start to add poisons to our water. They're just not that capable. It's a typical government thing. But many, many people were harmed, and they, of course, said, there's no problem, it's well within the limits. It's a lie, it wasn't.
So I think in various places they say 1 part per million, and in other places 3 parts per million, and I think America, I don't know, they say, well, what does it mean? How can you have how does the science break down on that point? Like, what's safe for humans to consume?
Well, when you mentioned earlier too much fluoride, you can't have too much fluoride any more than you can be shot with too many bullets, right?
Okay.
No bullets are the way to go. No fluoride. No fluoride is of the type they put in the water supply is required by anybody ever in their entire life. It is only a poison. It destroys bones. It causes an A to Z of illnesses, which is what I put in the government inquiry into fluoridation in the ACT. I listed literally an A to Z of illnesses that fluoridation causes.
Wow.
So you can't have too much because there is no safe level. The common level around the world in those very few countries where fluoridation is put in, where people have no choice, is 1 part per million. Although some places in Australia where it's hotter, they drop that down a bit because it's acknowledged you're going to drink more water.
Right.
But the idea that it's 1 part per million and that's your dose is a nonsense. That's not a dose, that's a rate coming in. Obviously the dose depends on how much water you drink, how much soft drink you drink that's made with fluoridated water.
And generally, soft drinks are, aren't they?
The vast majority, even 100% fruit juice. You check on the back, it's got reconstituted water. And what that means is it was filled up with tap water.
Yeah, that's
so you really have to stop ingesting fluoride in all its forms.
What do you say to the people who say, but the teeth these days are so much better because of fluoride? And my father's teeth, he only had 12 teeth at the end of his life, and I've got all my teeth. Like, this is the common thing that I get thrown back at me. And say, well, how can you? And what can I say to that sort of?
Well, what you can say is, first of all, I'd be happy to bring 100 people along who have never had any fluoride and have got perfect teeth, and whose children have never had any fluoride and have got perfect teeth. But in both cases, it's an anecdote. It's not a study. It's not statistical. It means absolutely nothing. And if we go on that, that's not a wise thing to do. So they should actually look at the studies, and what the studies show you in those few countries around the world where they don't have fluoridation, you've got superb teeth. Many communities, cities, countries have better teeth without fluoridation than with fluoridation. It's like everything else. The government simply don't give us the correct statistics, and in many cases they won't collect the correct statistics that would show us the truth.
And I think it's Alcoa. They're the guys that like to sell their waste product. Is it Alcoa? And
well, it started with Alcoa, the aluminium company of America, because in the 30s and 40s, they and other aluminium companies like Reynolds, big companies, were successfully sued for millions of dollars. That would be hundreds of millions in our terms, because of the fluoride waste
Plumes
belching out of
the
their smokestacks,
Yep.
landing on the ground, killing crops and livestock. So that's when a number of people connected to Alcoa started to say this is a good idea to put in the water supply. It got rid of their poisonous waste, and they were even getting paid for it. But these days in Australia, very little comes from aluminium, tiny amount.
Okay.
Nearly all of it comes from superphosphate manufacturing. Once again, smokestacks, not allowed to let it escape into the atmosphere, right? There are laws, environmental laws against that. So they bundle it up in the scrubbers, scrape it off the side of the walls, and in Queensland we get our rat poison from Belgium.
Belgian rat poison.
Superphosphate manufacturing.
Just like Belgian
plants.
beer, it must be good quality.
Well, what happens is they send it over in bags, right, like cement bags, and the label on that bag is required by the European Commission. It's law. They have to if they're going to transport this anywhere, even around the corner. And what the label said, it's got a skull and crossbones on both sides. It's got a class 6 in the bottom. That's class 6 poison. It's a very poisonous product. And it's got these words. This is an exact quote. It says toxic by inhalation, in contact with the skin, or if swallowed.
Right.
Believe it or not, the label on the poison they dump in our water supply in Queensland says toxic if swallowed.